What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we're going to talk about Saida. Saida has been quite cool so far in this season, has played a much bigger role than anybody really expected, to be honest, and I have to say I really like her in PvP and I think she will do great things there. So I thought today we're going to do a video. I'm going to show you a very cool arena team for Saida. We're going to go over why she's very important in this season and also some skills that I just want to point out to you because I think those will actually make her even more important throughout this season and for later on, maybe for phase 2 or phase 3. We'll have to see about that. First of all, Saida, what kind of hero is she? So if you've never really looked through her skills, let me give you the rundown. Basically, Saida is a very tanky unit with a lot of revive potential, some teleport hits that actually drain a lot of energy, and her signature thing are those drain seeds. You can see some over here already. They are on the ground once the enemy dies and she can revive from them, having up to 8 revives on the ground I think at the same time, which is absolutely crazy. So essentially you could group her together with heroes like Tazi, Thor and Igor because really this reviving is her signature thing, though not really the thing that made her meta in this season. She has fairly good damage, but her triggering condition for like the really big numbers is a bit hard to pull off because to do that you want her to do 3 ultimate skills. Her ultimate skill is fairly easy, it just hits an enemy, she teleports to the enemy, which is pretty cool, and then places a drain seed on them. She drains actually energy from that enemy, which is fairly nice, and can have up to 8 drain seeds active, and as I said, from every single drain seed she can actually revive, which is fairly nice. And every drain seed also has some skills which are part of the ultimate. Every 2.5 seconds they deal 250% damage to its host, and I have to say, well, the damage not that insane, and reduce their energy by 120. That part you notice because the enemy will get less ults, which is really good for you. So what is the big damage that really made her meta in this season? Well, there is the Mythic Plus skill, and in that Mythic Plus skill it says Saida reduces damage dealt by enemies afflicted by drain seed by 35%, which is great. Each time she casts her ultimate, the interval between drain seed attack effects is shortened by 0.5 seconds, up to a maximum reduction of 1.5 seconds for the current battle. Those are the drain seed attacks we just talked about from the passive skill. So essentially you can reduce those by 1.5 seconds, the interval between them, and for that you have to do 3 ultimate skills, and that part really isn't too insane yet, but once we get to the plus 15 something really crazy happened. Basically once you reach those 1.5 seconds, so do the 3 ults, you get a very crazy CC. She deals 1200% damage to all enemies and traps them with blood spikes, preventing them from moving or acting. And if an enemy becomes unaffected, temporarily freed, but the trap resumes once the effect ends. Each enemy is always trapped for a total of 45 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. That is crazy, and I want to show that to you. So the cool thing really is she has made her way into PvE. You see her in a lot of teams like this. We can just try to copy that and see how that works out. I've actually not tested that, I have to say it. I just hope this works well. You get some shield at the start of the battle, which is essentially really cool for Iron, because Iron can of course dodge with the shield, so there is a lot of synergy there. She herself has a lot of revive potential, but also a lot of damage reduction. So essentially that allows her to take a few hits, especially in PvP, and we'll also see in a second that she has a Mythic Charm effect or a Magic Charm effect. There is the CC, and you can see every single enemy is now CC'd. They can't do anything for 45 seconds, unless of course they are unaffected. But this is crazy. This is a crazy amount of CC, and actually also pretty good damage, so we can check that out. Yeah, you can see pretty big damage here, also pretty big damage from Brian, but really the main thing is you have the 45 second CC, and if you get to pull that off, well, the enemy won't really do a whole lot unless you have somebody in there that is unaffected. So pretty crazy for PvE, not that crazy for bosses. We had one boss in the last season, the Primal Lord, the Frog Primal Lord, that was vulnerable to her, but other than that, usually, well, her boss damage is kind of lackluster. So really you want to see her in PvE, in the AFK stages, and you want to have her in PvP. So absolutely crazy damage from this last part, and this is like really the thing that you want to achieve. On the one hand, of course, you can have her as just like a revive hero in the same role as you, for example, have an Igor, where she just is annoying by reviving. And then on the other hand, if you can pull off 3 ults, well, then you essentially win the fight, because there is barely an enemy who can stand against this, and she will usually just win the fight at that point. So this is fairly crazy. So how do you combine then? Which heroes do you use? Well, essentially the formation that I found to be the best is this one. It is actually not one that I personally used. It's actually the wrong artifact, I just noticed, sorry for that. We can switch for Divine Favor for this season for the energy recovery, which is really nice. You can also, of course, for Arena, use the Enlightening spell. Both are really fine. There's actually not one that I came up with myself. I actually got this from an older sheet from the Fight Club, from the AFK Journey Fight Club. It's a great Discord server with a lot of PvP info, and they always do Supreme Arena teams. So definitely check those out. I will put you the link to the Discord server down in the description. But they had this team in one of their older sheets, and I thought, well, this is really cool. This is like really a perfect combination, because what you essentially get is you get Igor for a little bit of stall, which is great. It's like the same synergy that you use with Athalia. Then on the other hand, oh, I clicked it away. You also get Athalia for extra damage, because that is really something you want to do. Not always can you pull off getting to 3 ults with your Saida, so having like the Athalia to take off the big damage units from the enemy is really great. So you can make use of the synergy between Athalia and Igor, and also at the same time you have Igor and Saida, which is great. Then we have 2 more units. We have Pandora and we have Dundinger. Pandora, of course, very easy to feed energy to Saida, because we need to get to those 3 ults. And on the other hand, we also have a fear effect. And that part I want to show you in this fight against Shedetto. We use this same team over here to fight a team that is essentially 1 Paragon level higher than we are. Well, the difference between the Celestials aside, we have another Saida team over here. And I use this one to fight it, and we can see the differences over here. I will make it on the normal speed. Essentially, usually you want to have the Dunlinger to kind of allow your Saida to have some ults before the enemy can really act. In this situation, the enemy had a Dunlinger too, which is a little bit scary. There is actually a counter in Dunlinger to Saida. Dunlinger, if the enemy combines it with high damage units, like Perseus for example, is a very common unit now to defeat Saida, and this Perseus manages to take out, well, your accompanying allies and your Saida, well, then you have a tough time, because especially at the beginning of the fight when Saida didn't do her a lot of ults yet, she's a little bit vulnerable to being taken out, because she only has as many revives as she has seeds. Every ult gives her another seed, so that is a little bit threatening. But we saw a very great example already a second ago, where all the enemies run away, and that gives us more time to act with Saida. That gives us actually more time to put the seeds on the enemy, to implement our ult, and to get going. And here we can see something nice now in a second. We do our 3rd ult, and you can see in this fight Saida versus Saida, we now activate our ability, which is always shown with this little animation, and then the enemy Saida is actually CC'd, and together with the Athalia, our damage potential is still there. That is really, really nice, and that is something that definitely saw being helpful in a lot of those situations, because we have those super long fights and we can take Athalia with us no matter whether she dies or not, because she has this ability and allows her to become like her Lance form, which is I think here with 35% reduced attack, and stay on the battlefield no matter what. And essentially we have that with Pandora too, because when she's defeated, well, she doesn't really grant us energy anymore, which is sad, so we don't really want that to happen, but she still is the box and can do her flood and do her skills, so she's still able to assist us with her ult. What you want to make sure of is you want to have the S++ upgrade for the Enhanced Force, because that gives us the spellbind energy reduction on the enemy, which is really valuable to just get ahead of an enemy Dundinger that doesn't have that, though I would argue probably most have. So this is something you definitely want to use. On top of that, we have 2 more skills that I want to point out before we get into some arena PvP. Skill number 1, just on her. is just her magic charm skill. It is fairly nice. In the first 15 seconds of battle, reduces damage taken by 35%, and after duration ends, increases damage dealt by 40%, and we already covered that like the first seconds of the fight are kind of critical. You don't really want to die there, and you kind of want to have your Saida go out and put her ult on the enemy to just generate more seeds and get to those 3 ults, which are really the magical threshold for her. And then this actually gets later on upgraded to even prevent a fatal blow, so this will make it even better. So once we get to Mythic, she will be really hard to kill, because 15 seconds in which damage is reduced by 35%, we have the extra damage reduction on top of that here as well, where she has like the 12% damage reduction, which later on gets upgraded to 20, and then you can have an extra 20% here for 40% depending on the amount of drain seeds that you have. And keep in mind, with the Supreme Plus that you should definitely get, she starts off with 2, so already has like 28% damage reduction natively herself, plus what comes from Magic Charm, so she will be really tough and really strong on the battlefield in those first seconds. And then if she takes a fatal blow, which I mean she runs to the enemy, she's kind of at 1 range, so it's a bit of a struggle. Then she will might take a fatal blow, but then still be strong. By the way, her revive ability, that is something that I want to cover very quickly. I still think it fits into this point. When she's defeated, consumes a drain seed. That part we have covered. She restores HP, and then she prioritizes the oldest seed available. Okay, that is also the position where she spawns. Wherever that seed is, she spawns. It isn't too bad. Usually she takes a few hits. She keeps her energy that she had when she died, when she revives actually from the drain seed, so you can kind of get to your 3rd ult still, even if you have like basically lost the fight and have like 3 drain seeds left, and then she gets hit like 4 or 5 times, does a few hits herself, and suddenly has another ult, and then she will actually do that. And keep in mind, that is actually a teleport ult. That means she doesn't have to run to anybody, she just does her ult, and it's basically set. So that is a very mean thing that you should definitely know about her. Then lastly, what we also have in this team, and which is very cool, we have 1, 2, 3 Celestial or Hypergen heroes, meaning we get the Phantimal for Celestial Hypergen, which is Illusia, and Illusia is fairly strong. It's a very cool Celestial Hypergen Phantimal, and I have to say she also fits this team fairly well. Not really the first ability, she has this teleport ability. I mean, okay, cool, a little bit of vitality reduction. We don't really go for damage over time here though. It's more of like bursty. We have Athalia in there. Saida is, well, not really super bursty, but like conditional, and once you reach like the 3 ults, well, she becomes fairly bursty. Also, this is not really interesting. This one is. We can't reach that within like phase 1, because phase 1, we can see it on my Forest Phantimal, which is actually maxed for this phase level cap reached. This is the maximum that you can get. So we have to upgrade that further, and then we can get to this level. But this ability is super cool. It applies a spirit mark on an allied hero placed behind her, granting them singularity. And for every 4 tiles the spirit marked hero moves, a black hole spawns in the area with the most enemies, pulling in all enemies within 2 tiles. So kind of like the Siren ability. Then this collapses, deals a ton of true damage to the enemies, and immobilizes them. So we have CC here now. And the condition is, for every 4 tiles the spirit marked hero moves. We have 2 heroes. We need to test that can move. First of all, we have, of course, our Saida. She can teleport. I don't know if that really counts as moving, but if it does, it should be a fairly fast way to actually fulfill this 4 tile requirement. On the other hand, we have Athalia. Athalia has super quick movement over the entire battlefield, basically, so we would be able to spam that, essentially. It has like, well, not really spam that, but we should be able to do this every 8 seconds, essentially giving us a very free CC at the start of the battle. Gets an upgrade later on too, so this is like very strong. And then on top of that, she has this Twisted Rift, which is this ability, and that later on becomes able to make your enemies into cats. And why is this so great? Well, essentially the more CC we have that is basically added onto this team, and where we don't really have to change up a hero, the better for us, because then we are actually able to pull off our Saida ults more easily. So this team just get stronger by that, which is pretty insane in my opinion, because we are already fairly set. If we go for arena now, let's see if we can fight somebody. We have place 2 here, I'm still place 1, so yeah, it's tough. We can swap that out. That is a fairly interesting team, it's pretty much the same. And we... Does he have a Paragon advantage? I'm not even sure. I'm too lazy to calculate that. We are not going to calculate that right now. We of course want to have our Saida here. Regarding the shields, you have different options. You can put it on the Igor if you don't want him to die early on. Igor of course has to generate his tombstones. Other option would be Pandora, just so you make sure she doesn't die, because that can also happen of course. It depends a little bit on the positioning. If you go like this, of course she gets the shield, and then our Thalia is there, or we can go like this, for example, to give them both the shield. I think I would start with this now. I just don't really want to have Pandora get hit by the Bonnie. So we have the Bonnie dot now on our Igor, which is fine. Saida should come out, or is she already out? Yeah, I always lose track of her. There she is actually. There she is, moving over the battlefield. Athalia is already dealing a ton of damage really. So that is really, that is a pretty good thing. We got hit, I think, there. Isn't too bad, it's not really a problem. The Tazi should be fine for us, because we have Athalia there on the battlefield. We have more seats, 2 more seats available, so that is good. And you can see, okay, now the artifact ended, that is actually not that great. But there we got the teleport, we got another ult. Is this already ult number 3? That is the question now. It actually is. Caught the Tazi mid-flight. Got her down there. Let's see the interaction that happens now. And she actually revives and is instantly caught again. So now the question is, who survives longer? We actually have 2 more seats there. And we got that enemy Tazi down. Yeah, it's a little bit hairy. It looks like it is. It looks very weird, but it is rather strong. We were able to counter the Tazi mid-ult, and in this fight of the 2 teams that essentially had like a fairly similar idea of working, like just using revive heroes, in this case Tazi and Talene. In our case it was just like Igor surviving very long and just Saida on top of that. We were actually able to win, and countering off Tazi there very well. I think we still had like 1 or 2 seats left, and we could have spawned more. So I think that was like a fairly solid victory. I always think those are like a little bit... I don't like how those fights look. I'll be honest with you guys. It is strong. It is very annoying to lose to this, because you can beat this entire team and then she just activates her 3 ults and one-shots like 4 of your heroes. So that can still happen to you. Let's see if we can fight place 3. But I'm always like, it feels so close. You never know if you're losing or winning or what's going to happen, and that is something that I don't like about this. I'll be honest with you guys. So we'll set it up in the way that it was intended. This was the setup that was actually used on the sheet from AFK Johnny Fight Club. So let's try this out. Let's try this against the enemy team. One thing that had me a little bit confused overall. I'm no longer really used to having no P4. We are not running any Paragon 4 hero, which is a little bit confusing. We got the second ult off, so we got 2 ults off essentially during the time of Dunlinger, and then we're able to chain off another Dunlinger because we had the S++, so this is like really great. The enemy, even if he had like the Shamira left, would have never been able to do anything, and there we go. Casting that, look how quickly that actually took care of the enemies. That was insane. I want to see this at full speed, because like the end was insane. It says it deals 160% damage or something, but like it's the 1200% that you have at the start, then you deal 160%, and then she can chain off her other abilities. So take a look at that Bonnie. Bam! Gone. And we got all 5 kills with Saida actually, which is fairly interesting. Let's see the numbers for that again. Yeah, 2,588k. That is quite the madness there. So definitely an insane one. We had the... Oh, this was fairly similar in terms of... Or was it? No. We had the Paragon advantage actually on this one. Because those are 2 crown heroes, of course, on the main damage dealers, which is nice. But then we have like the P1 on the Nero with low stars, P1 on Daemon with low stars. Yeah, of course dragging the team down quite a bit actually. Let's try another one, but that was place 3. We're just going by the rankings here again. Next would be place 4. Can we find a place 4? That is all place 4. Let's try that. And we're just going through here. So essentially we have another, well, not really too much of a recovery team. We have the Tazi there. The only thing that this team is really lacking a little bit is like executability. I always had Siren for this because I really like having Siren on the team for like just a quick execute and having that. The Dunlinger though, absolutely great. Upgraded him to P3, I think during the last season, and did it really well. Yeah, against this team, which was like a lot weaker, you don't really get to do the long play of Saida. It's just like a Thalia nuking the enemy, which is fine too. I mean, for that we are kind of running it too. And there we have all place 5, so we got them all. We got the entire place 5 now. Yeah, shouldn't make too much of a difference. The only thing that's annoying here is that the Lily may will likely take off our ult from the Saida, because after 4 seconds we get the Saida ult, and at that time no other hero will likely get one. So yeah, there we go, we get the ult counter. Actually our Dunlinger got taken off, but the ult from Pandora, you can see, yeah, it's really, really nice for this. Definitely looking forward to upgrading her to P4. You can do it with the epic summons, by the way, so that is really, really nice. And yeah, that was the entire top 5. Place 1, of course, like a little bit more of a struggle, but that was even a fight against a team with Paragon advantage. You don't really see that. You don't really notice it too much, so this is fairly great. Lastly, we have one more thing to say, or 2 more things to say. First of all, shout out to our sponsor LD Shop. They made this, of course, all possible, and the good thing for LD Shop is you get the cheapest dragon crystals that you can get. At the moment, there is like a crazy thing. There is a 100% discount coupon I just saw, and it actually gives you the Classic Gazette for free. I don't know, kind of insane. If you want to try the service, and maybe you have the discount coupon too, I don't actually know that. I just saw it when I joined the website. You might be able to actually get that for free too. Other than that, super cheap discounts, super cheap on the Dragon Crystals. You get a 15% and a 5% discount coupon when you register an account through my link down in the description. And other than that, there's also always the offer they have that when you spend 80 USD on the website within 1 month, you can actually get one of those monthly passes here, which are sadly not for AFK Journey, but for Genshin, Honkai, Zenith Zone Zero, Wuthering Ring Waves. So if you play any of those games, you can just get yourself a free monthly card by wailing a little bit on AFK Journey. So that's absolutely great. Shout out to LD Shop once again for sponsoring this video, and definitely recommend them, guys. So check out the link in the description, get yourself the 15% and the 5% discount coupon. So for the last part of this video, I just want to point out the things that can really counter you, and that are really like the situations in which you don't want to bring your Saida team. The inherent weakness of Saida is, well, that she kind of needs to ramp up her revive ability. For other heroes, let's say for example Thorin, no matter what he does, he has like his revives and he will trigger them, and that is really essentially it. And for Tazi, it is kind of similar. She can get a few more as well, but also from the start she has like a few. Saida really only gets revives when she has Drain Seeds, and Drain Seeds she only gets when she is S+. You will notice that she will be a lot weaker in PvP if you don't have her at S+, so that is something that you definitely want to keep in mind. And then you want to kind of allow her to do a few ults, so that you can get this endgame situation that we just saw, where she is able to revive off of like 3, 4, 5 Drain Seeds, revive a lot, get maybe another ult off to place another Drain Seed to get another revive, and that essentially is the way you want to play this. So everything that counters this playstyle can be considered a counter to Saida. The number one thing that really counters her is Dunlinger plus Burst. Dunlinger blocks her from doing her ult, so she's unable to place more Drain Seeds, limiting her Drain Seeds to 2. And at that time, of course, she's a little bit vulnerable. She has the damage reduction we already saw. She will later on get the Fatal Blow protection, which will make this a lot easier to go with, but still she struggles a little bit against enemy Dunlinger. Let's watch a fight. So this here was against Shorty. We used the same artifact minus at level 16 because I was too lazy to farm, and what he is doing is he is running a Perseus team with not crowned Perseus. I have crowned Perseus. LD Shop helps. Oh, just kidding. Look at that. Look at that crown team. What a whale. He has Ravion even there at the crown. Absolutely crazy. So, Dunlinger, Ravion team with Perseus, essentially super big burst. And we see 0 damage from Saida because she just didn't get to actually do that. And I will put in half speed. We see our heroes getting defeated. Saida now has an ult, doesn't really help her. There are 2 drain seeds, but with all that burst coming in, she doesn't even get like a whole lot of HP left. And then we have Diana quickly taking her off. We get 1 ult out here, so that was at least something, but we got blocked by the shield, otherwise she would have dealt a little bit of damage at least. But all that burst really was too much for her to handle too early on, and that is how you can really counter her. Perseus will help you with it, and if you have a strong team with that, and even maybe Dino on top of it, and he will definitely enjoy this Dino later on because he is getting a Supreme Plus upgrade this season, which will be very, very interesting. That can really be a problem. Can you counter that? Well, specifically if you are in the defending situation, it is a little bit tough. In a situation where you are attacking into Perseus' team, I would always run like Brutus. So if you, I would probably take the Igor, replace him with Brutus, and try to stop the Perseus a little bit there, so that you maybe have a chance to get outside of this Dunlinger range and or out of the order bell from Dunlinger, and maybe get through the face of Perseus where he has true damage, because then you have a chance with Saida. What you can't have is an enemy Perseus running into your Saida and instantly taking off a few of her lives. That is something you really don't want to happen. So that was basically one thing. And of course, against any team with Pandora and a hero that gets buffed by her, you can always run a Lily May against it to take away the first ult. This will also limit the power of Saida a little bit. And of course, on the other hand, you can just defeat Pandora quickly. Defeating Pandora quickly will result in her not giving Saida the 1000 energy. So again, that is our formation that I think is probably the best for us. You can run it with Enlightening Spell for the normal arena. For Supreme Arena, it will definitely be strong. Shout out to Fight Up once again for this wonderful comp. And other than that, I would say I wish you a great day, and we'll see us in the next one.